Good afternoon. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Community Development and Regulatory Services Committee for today, March 18th. I've been joined by all members of the committee, including council members Warsami, Reich, Fry, Quincy, and Cano. I'm Lisa Goodman, chair of the committee. We'll start with our consent agenda, which starts with item number 9 and continues through item number 13. Item number 9 are granting the licenses recommended for approval by staff for new liquor, wine, beer establishment owners, etc. Item 10 is setting a public hearing for April 1st, which is the hearing protection ordinance issue. Item 11 is authorizing contracts with MCCD and the African Development Center. Item 12 is accepting grants, and item 13 is setting a public hearing for April 15th. I'm moving the consent agenda, items 9 through 13. Are there any items anyone would like to pull off? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. We'll then move to our public hearing agenda, starting with item number 1, the Cameron Building. Amy, welcome.
I'm Amy Geisler, and I'm with Residential Finance within CPED. And this item is a request for preliminary approval of up to $7.5 million in housing revenue bonds for the Cameron project. This is a rehab of a vacant warehouse building in the North Loop that Schaefer Richardson is undertaking. They are proposing to include 44 units, all affordable housing. It would be a mix of studios, 1- and 2-bedroom units. All of them would be affordable at 50 or 60% of area median income. Parking will be provided on the existing surface parking lot, which is next to the building. And you may recall that we provided an Affordable Housing Trust Fund award to this project in 2012. And since that time, they've been successful in receiving a number of other funding awards. And they are now looking at closing in the summer of this year. And so again, we're looking for preliminary approval. The housing revenue bond request. They would need to come back for final approval prior to closing. I can answer any questions, and we also have representatives from Schaefer Richardson.
Are there any questions for Ms. Geisler on item number 1? Seeing none, thank you for your report. We'll open the public hearing on item number 1, which is a resolution granting approval of the issuance of up to $7.5 million in tax-exempt multifamily housing entitlement revenue bonds. Is there anyone here to speak to this issue? Anyone? Anyone? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Council Member Fry.
I would just like to express my support for this project. I think this is tremendous for the North Loop. I think it's tremendous for the city. We've got both the Cameron as well as the Cremet in North Loop that have tackled this idea of incorporating both affordable as well as market rate into the same development project. I think this is a brilliant idea just for increasing diversity and density simultaneously in our city, and I couldn't be more pumped about this project going forward.
Would you like to move approval?
I would.
Approval has been moved of item number 1. Further comments and questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is approved. We'll move on to item number 2, which is the application for on-sale liquor, Class C with Sunday sales for Brasserie Zentral. Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Grant Wilson from Business Licensing. We have an application by Brasserie Zentral for a location at 505 Marquette Avenue for an on-sale liquor license with Sunday sales. This is a part of the newly renovated Sioux Line building, and this restaurant and hospitality room will be on the first floor in the lobby area of that building. The applicant is Russell and Desta Klein. They're 50% owners. There will be interior seating for up to 253 persons. This will be a fine dining restaurant location. Because this building has not had a liquor license before, a public hearing is required. We did mail 84 public hearing notices to property owners and residents within 300 feet of the building. We have received no responses due to that mailing. The applicant meets all requirements as far as we can tell, and staff is recommending approval.
Are there any questions for Mr. Wilson on item number 2? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing on item number 2, which is an application for on-sale liquor. Is there anyone here to speak to this issue? Anyone? Anyone? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and move approval of item number 2. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is approved. We'll then move on to item number 3.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have an application by the Bright Red Group LLC doing business as the Smack Shack at 603 Washington Avenue North. This is a restaurant and bar that has been in operation for just over a year at this location. They would like to upgrade their license from a Class E to a Class B. The Class B allows them to have live entertainment, musicians, dancing, things like that. The requested hours of operation, along with this, are Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 1 a.m., Friday and Saturday until 2 a.m. This application, the applicants went through a police security review with Don Harris from the 1st Precinct. They talked about many issues regarding how security will be handled. The police recommended that one employee act as the head of security for this particular place, and that they have a head of security designated all hours of operation, and that the police, 1st Precinct, be giving the on-site manager's cell phone numbers so that they can contact them if they get a complaint. And the applicant has agreed to that in their business plan. A public hearing is required because this is an upgrade. We did a public hearing notice mailing to 24 residents and property owners within 300 feet. We also did hand posting to buildings of 618 and 700 Washington and 625 2nd Street North. We gave notice to the North Loop Neighborhood Association, Downtown West Neighborhood Association, and the Warehouse District Business Association. In response to those notifications, we received 5 responses in support of the application and 3 that are opposed. The 3 that are opposed are pretty adamant that there is a considerable amount of noise from other establishments in the area, and they think that by adding live entertainment to this establishment, it could increase the noise complaints in the area. Staff has reviewed these concerns, and at this point, we're recommending that this application be approved.
Are there any questions for Mr. Wilson? Councilmember Frye.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Chair Goodman. What's the process of notification for rental units, and how does that differ from owner-occupied?
We do not mail to renter occupied buildings because the mailing system that we have, they all come back to occupant of an apartment building, and 90% of them come back in the mail as undeliverable by the post office. So what our process is, we hand post those buildings. We talk to the manager of the building to look at where in the building most of the people come in, or where it would be appropriate for us to post that building. Sometimes they even hand deliver them for us and slide them under the doors and things like that. But we do the best we can to post these buildings.
Thank you.
Further comments or questions for Mr. Wilson? Councilmember Warsame.
Yeah, Mr. Wilson, how effective has this method of informing residents, how effective has it been?
I think generally it's worked pretty well. We do get a complaint now and again that somebody that we maybe posted the wrong entrance or didn't put it by where people come in all the time, or some people come in another entrance and didn't hear about it. So we do post the premise itself, so the address that's requesting the license gets posted, and then everybody within 300 feet. But the complaints, I don't think, have been significant.
Councilmember Quincy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Wilson, I was wondering, of the complaints opposed to by individuals who are opposed to the expansion of their liquor license, were there any complaints of their current operations, operating within their current license?
Madam Chair, Councilmember Quincy, is your question, were there any complaints about the Smack Shack as they operate now?
Yes, that's correct.
I do not have any complaints about the current operation.
Thank you.
Further questions for Mr. Wilson? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing on item number 3, which is a consideration of an application for non-sale liquor Class B with Sunday sales at the Smack Shack. Is there anyone here to speak to this issue? Anyone? Anyone? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Frye.
I just wanted to first check, is Mr. Thoma in the audience by any chance? Would you mind just answering a few quick questions for me, Mr. Thoma? Is that all right? Thank you so much. First of all, I love your business and specifically the lobster rolls. I'm there at least once every other week, so I hope that you keep making them.
Thank you very much, Councilmember.
And second off, so it's my understanding that as part of getting this sort of further revamped liquor license, there are a bunch of items that you have that are in there that you might not necessarily need. And I got an email from you last night. Thank you for that. Well, which you bullet pointed several items that would perhaps alleviate some of the concerns that the surrounding community has. And I will note for the record that there has been several concerns that have been brought forth specifically by residents of the Coppin building, which is the building in which Smack Shack is located. So the first item that's bullet pointed here is you said the existing bar seating will not be moved to create a dance floor. So that's accurate?
That's correct.
Okay, so there's no dance floor that's being created, right? Okay, I mean, I imagine it'll be pretty hard because the space is pretty packed as it is right now with
Correct.
the lobster tank and the bar.
We're a
and
restaurant, and, basically we were looking for an expansion of our concept, and the way that we can do that is the expansion of, or the upgrade in our liquor license to allow live music.
Got it. And then sort of temporary DJ lighting, that's also not part of
Correct.
the plans. So there's no possibility that you're going to turn into a club or anything.
No chance.
Okay, so I think a lot of the concerns were they don't want another loop. Although I know a lot of people love the loop. The loop is definitely a different kind of business than what Smack Shack presently is, and I think there was a concern. We don't want them on both sides of the street.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then it says sort of no DJ style lighting or sound system will be installed.
That's correct.
So you're going to be using the sound system that you already got in place.
Right, with the exception of whatever, if you need a small amplifier for a bass guitar or something like that.
So-
we're not going to add a big foreground sound system.
Thank you so much. And what about can you just give me a brief synopsis of the kind of music that you're going to be playing, just out of curiosity?
It's going to be New Orleans style jazz, Zydeco live with horns and accordion. Certainly once in a while there's an electric guitar in there, and then also from time to time we'll probably have some kind of guest DJ that's more ambient music than dance floor club music.
I appreciate that. I don't have any further questions. I really appreciate you coming in to answer some of them for us, and I love your business, restaurant. Hope you guys continue to be a huge hit in North Loop.
Thank you very much.
Further comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll move approval of the recommendation by staff to approve the license. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is approved. We'll then move on to item number 4, Socialista.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have an application by F&F Entertainment Group, LLC, doing business as Socialista at 730 Washington Avenue North. They are also seeking an on-sale liquor license, Class B, with Sunday sales. They will have seating inside for 165 persons and no outside seating, and they are seeking to be open till 2:30 a.m. This location has not held a liquor license before. It's located in a converted mixed-use building. The lower 2 levels on the south end of the building facing Washington will house this premises. The north side of the building currently houses an alcohol establishment called the Burro. F&F Entertainment Group comprises 2 persons, which is Fernando Rodriguez and Frank Santiago. The applicants also went through a police security review with Lieutenant Don Harris from the 1st Precinct and have developed a security plan that we believe will work for this establishment. This establishment will offer fine dining, Caribbean style, as well as Latin style music. Public hearing is required. 36 notices were mailed to residents and property owners within 300 feet. We also posted all buildings within the 300 feet and sent notices electronically to residents and business associations and residents associations. We received 1 response from that mailing and posting, and that 1 response was opposed, and it was similar to the last application that we just talked, that they were concerned about the noise created by another local North Loop club that they didn't want that use expanded. Staff believes this application meets all of the requirements, and we are recommending approval.
Are there any questions for Mr. Wilson? Mr. Wilson, does this establishment plan to have a dance floor and DJ business? How is this any different than the one we just heard, other than some people in one building were concerned, but now there isn't anyone who knows about it because there's only so many residents within an area? Are the applicants here? Great, maybe they can speak to it. Why don't I open the public hearing so that we can you can answer that question. This is a public hearing on item number 4, Socialista, 730 Washington Avenue North, application for a new on-sale liquor with Class B license. Welcome. Please state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, my name is Fernando Santa Rodriguez, part owner of Socialista, FNF, and I'm live on 22nd and Irving up in Minneapolis, South.
So do you plan to have a dance floor?
I do not, yeah.
And will you have amplified music?
I would have some old bands. I was a previous owner of Babalu, which was in 800 Washington. So I was one of the first ones down in the North Loop.
You were there when no one was there.
No one was there, yeah. So, and what I used to have, it was mainly flamenco, which was a three-piece band, and Latin jazz bands, and also Brazilian bands, Ticket to Brazil, which was trios. So that's what kind of the music I'm planning on having on this space.
So similar situation with Smack Shack, kind of music that reflects the food and
Exactly, yeah.
to provide entertainment so people stay a little bit longer than eating and
yeah.
running.
It will be more in the background than in, as a methods of bringing people in. We're a fine dining restaurant, so that's what we're trying to achieve. So.
Great. Well, thank you for being here and thank you for your testimony. Councilmember Fry.
Thank you. We're excited to have you. I just wanted to state for the record that we in the Third Ward are very pro dancing also.
Good.
So you don't have to say anything else. That was just my question about why there were these concerns about one that's operating with no problems and then not a peep about the other when no one. And it gave you an opportunity to admit that you were one of the first people in this area. I'm happy to be back. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else here to testify on item number 4? Anyone? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Fry.
Move the item.
Item number 4 has been moved for approval. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is approved. We'll move on then to item number 5, the Copper Hen Cakery. Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Copper Hen Cakery is proposing to be located at 2515 Nicollet Avenue in Minneapolis, and they are seeking an on-sale wine and strong beer license, Class C1 and Sidewalk Cafe. They will have seating on the inside for 68 persons, outside for 6 on a small sidewalk cafe on the public right-of-way. Hours of operation during the week expect to be from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. and from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. on the weekends. The applicant are partners Christopher Bjorling and Danielle Bjorling. The Copper Hen will be a full-service restaurant serving American food with an emphasis on cakes. The Class C license allows up to 5 musicians. Public hearing is required because this site has not held a liquor license before. 96 public hearing notices were mailed to property owners and residents. We received 1 response to our notification process, and that notification is in support of the application. This application meets all of our requirements, and I am recommending approval.
Are there any questions for Mr. Wilson on item number 5? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing on item number 5, the Copper Hen Cakery, an application for on-sale wine, Class C with strong beer. Is there anyone here to speak to this issue? Anyone? Anyone? Is the owner here? I want to dance. I'll be so excited to eat your cake. It's very good. Further comments, questions? Public hearing. We'll close the public hearing. I'll move approval of item number 5. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is approved. Thank you for being here today. We'll move on to item number 6, the very exciting rental dwelling license issues. There's 2 of them. Are you presenting both of them? Okay, great.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. First thing I want to say is both of these amendments, they've been reviewed with the Minnesota Multi-Housing Association, as well as utilizing a email system that is managed by the police department that notifies 12,000 property owners. First amendment is sponsored by Councilmember Johnson, and we're amending Title 12, Chapter 244 of the Minneapolis Code of Ordinances relating to housing, subsection 244-1840, subdivision 3, adding language to include an additional duty for rental license holders to respond to inquiries and notifications of meetings by city staff in reference to, in the reference departments. So the reference departments is the health department, regulatory services, and the police department. We all have authority in regulating rental property, and so when we do request an owner to come in for a meeting, we expect that they'll do that. And that really is the major change in that ordinance. So.
Perhaps you could also give the staff report on item number 7, and we can take them both at the same time.
Sure. Today, I'm here representing an amendment for Councilmember Camp Gordon. A number of years ago, we drafted this section of the ordinance to deal with one specific contamination site, and that was the arsenic cleanup in South Minneapolis. We wanted to broaden that language today so that we have the authority and the tools we need to address rental properties in these super site areas. There are two provisions that really impact the rental property owners in a super site area, and that's disclosing contamination information to the tenants or any future tenants. This disclosure form is developed by us and will be mailed to every impacted rental property owner so that they have a copy. It also will be available on our website for their future use. It's important that tenants understand what was tested, what those test results were, what happened in the removal or the remediation of the contamination. The other provision in the ordinance is that if owners don't cooperate with the cleanup effort or the testing within the building, they must do that to the authority agencies. If they don't do that, it would be a just cause adverse license action.
Are there any questions for Ms. Velde on items number 6 and 7? Councilmember Wright.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just comment on item 7. I share the area that kind of prompted Councilmember Gordon to pursue this. I think it's one of those things where specific things often raise policy issues. They get tested, and then we want to expand them citywide if they make sense. And I believe this absolutely makes sense and is fair to the people who will be affected, particularly the renters. So I move both items with an emphasis on the last one, Madam Chair.
Councilmember Wright, may I open the public hearing first? I know, we're not used to it. I agree. I'm like completely perplexed by this whole reg services thing. So let's see. We'll hold on Councilmember Reich's motion, see if there are any other questions from Ms. Velde. Seeing none, we will open the public hearing on items number 6 and 7. If you're here to speak to either the rental license dwelling change or the tenant notification on environmental contamination, feel free to step forward and state your name and address for the record. Anyone? Anyone? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Reich.
Move both items as presented.
Both items as presented by staff. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. Now we'll go to something we're much more comfortable with. We'll start with item number 14, Downtown East Block 1 development rights. Mr. Lind, welcome.
Yes, thank you. My name is Bob Lynn. I'm part of the senior management team at CPED. And item number 14 before you is staff's recommendation that we designate the Ryan Companies as the developer for the Block 1 project in downtown Minneapolis here. Now, this process all started back in very early in January when the city put out an RFP for the development of Block 1, which is the liner parcel and the air rights plane above the ramp that will be built on Block 1. We sent this notification for this RFP out to our developers list, which is a list of about 800 plus developers. These are both local and national developers. We also did something a little different. We also held a pre-proposal conference call to try to accommodate some of the out-of-town developers in the sense of giving them the chance to call in and talk with staff and others about questions they might have or just some clarification of the RFP and so forth. We found that to be very successful and very helpful. I guess it's kind of funny to find out that developers typically don't want to fly into Minneapolis in the middle of January for an RFP and so forth. So the pre-conference call definitely worked well. The city, from that process, from the 800 plus developers that were sent the RFP and the pre-conference call, we did get two proposals. We got a proposal from the Mortensen Development Company. Mortensen was proposing to build a 300 hotel on the site in two different buildings, 150-room AC Marriott and 150-room Spring Hills Marriott Hotel. The other proposal was from the Ryan Companies. Ryan Companies was proposing to build a 150-room Radisson Red Hotel, basically 10 stories of a hotel, and then on top of the hotel, a 17-story, 200-unit apartment tower atop of the hotel. As we were, developing and working with these two developers, we gave each of them the opportunity to come back, and we had a number of questions, additional information that was needed, but they both had the opportunity to work with staff to try to refine and clarify their proposals over the course of the month of January. The timing issue in the case of this project, moving forward, we have a parking ramp that's being built by Ryan Companies as well. In order to accommodate the hotel or hotel plus an apartment complex, it would require obviously some modifications to that parking ramp. So the timing was important in the sense of designating a developer so that whatever would be built atop of the parking ramp, that the various modifications and structural changes could be designed into the work for the parking ramp itself, which has a construction start, which would be this fall or fourth quarter of 2014. And in order to accommodate that construction start in the parking ramp, that design work and those modifications need to occur, of course, over the spring and the summer here of 2014. We had a review team that was put together, and I want to, first of all, thank the review team for putting the time into doing this. We met at least 4 times, but we had a review team made up of city CPED staff, as well as staff from the finance department, as well as city attorney's office, as well as some staff from city council members who also participated in the review team. The review team, as I mentioned, met a number of times, and as we went through the process of looking at the two proposals, looking at the hotel by Mortensen and the hotel plus the apartment tower by the Ryan Companies, and going through questions, additional information, the consensus came at the end that the proposal that best met the objectives that the city wanted to meet was the Ryan Companies proposal of the hotel plus the apartment tower atop the hotel. The combination of the hotel and the apartment tower really kind of met as far as giving us the maximum development on the site. Staff was concerned about, making sure that there was activity on a 24/7 type basis, making sure that there were eyes on the park and so forth. And this combination proposal tended to do that more than just a single hotel project by itself. Second, when you look at the two proposals, there was a vast difference in the upfront price that would be paid for the liner parcel and the air rights. Mortensen had bid a price in of roughly about $1 million, whereas the Ryan Companies had put a price in of $5.6 million. Also, they were also going to lock in that in the sense that they were going to guarantee that the amount of those ramp modifications would be no more than $2 million against the gross purchase price to the city, thereby, giving the city more assurances that the net price would be the $5.6 million. Finance staff also went through an analysis of, what would these two projects generate as far as, city lodging taxes, city entertainment taxes, city property taxes, park dedication fees, building permit fees, and in looking at the two proposals and doing a present value calculation of the two proposals over in a period of time, in this case 25 years, the Ryan Company's proposal was almost $5 million more as far as a present value calculation over a 25-year period of time. Now, the Ryan proposal itself is going to generate roughly about $876,000 in one-time upfront park dedication and building permit fees. And then on an annual basis, the Ryan proposal will generate roughly $1.2 million in city taxes, of which roughly about $800,000 would be city property taxes, another $207,000 in city lodging taxes, and then another $237,000 in annual city entertainment taxes for the Ryan proposal. The next steps in this process, once a designation of a developer for the project, would be that we obviously need to finish the design work on the parking ramp itself, those modifications, in order to have construction start on the ramp in the fourth quarter of 2014. Once the ramp is substantially completed in the fall or the fourth quarter of 2015, then the construction can start on the hotel and the apartment complex and so forth. So it's kind of a staging of the construction and so forth. Staff at this time in the report is also asking authorization to put together the term sheet, if you will, for the redevelopment contract that would be between the city and the developer. We would then come back to the city council in the next few months with the terms of that land sale for the project once we hammer out the term sheet and so forth and the redevelopment contract. So that would be something we'd come back to the city council with. I should mention, on a personal note, I was just kind of thinking about this over the weekend. On a personal note, I was working for the city of Minneapolis when the original Metrodome was built back in the early 1980s, and you stay around here long enough and you see something come full circle and so forth. But one thing that's really different this time is that is kind of the encouraging to see is that this time there really is some spin-off development that is occurring as a part of the stadium construction. So that's one thing that I see that's different from this time around versus the first time the stadium was built. So with that, staff would stand for any questions. We also have representatives here today from the Ryan Company, should you have any questions of them as well. So,
Are there any questions for Mr. Lind on his report? Mr. Carpenter is here too if there are questions for finance.
Comment.
Okay. Seeing none, Councilmember Frye.
I just wanted to voice my support for the staff recommendation here. The rule of thumb in this particular scenario, I think, is more is better. And in this case, we have more eyes on the park with 150 hotel units and 200 residential units, and we have more money to the city. So I appreciate your time. And I also, Mr. Lynn, appreciate your time of doing outreach to the community, taking time away from your whatever it is that you do during the evenings, which I've seen you do on several occasions. So thank you for that. I think this is a phenomenal project that will add a great deal to the community.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
I should have mentioned we went to the Downtown Minneapolis Neighborhood Association as well as the Mill District Neighborhood Association 3 times in the past, I guess, month and a half, just to keep updating them on the process through the RFP as well as the review work of the staff and so forth. So.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Lind. I will move approval of the staff recommendation, and I also have staff direction to amend the report. So I'll just read that staff direction out loud. Goodman moves to amend the report by adding the following recommendation. Although Section 422.190 of the Minneapolis Code of Ordinances does not apply to this proposed project because the city will not retain a proprietary interest in the project, the city strongly encourages Ryan Company's hotel operator to negotiate a labor peace agreement with the applicable labor organizations in the spirit of Section 422.190. So I'm just noting that we do not want to have a labor dispute on a property or a project of this magnitude, with this much attention, and certainly with this amount of public subsidy immediately next door. And we know our friends at Ryan don't want that either, and they have been apprised of this language and have not indicated any objection to it. So I just want to note that's the spirit in which I'm bringing this forward. Further comments or questions on the staff recommendation with the chair's amendment? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is approved. Thank you, Mr. Lynn. I will note that I did skip over item number 8, which is the quasi-judicial hearing for the rental license at 3111 Upton Avenue North. I have been notified by staff that Mr. Meldahl would like to see a one-cycle extension, so I think I'll continue the public hearing, if that's appropriate. I'll just check in with Mr. Fusi also.
Madam Chair, it's a licensing hearing and not a public hearing, but it certainly would be appropriate to simply continue the matter for one cycle.
Okay, so I'll move to continue item number 8 for one cycle. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That item has been continued. We'll then move on to item number 15, which is an update on our small business revolving loan programs.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Judy Moses. I'm in the Business Development Department at CPED. You have before you a recommendation to receive and file our 2013 portfolio report for the business development loan programs, and also a request for authorization to write off a 2% loan, which was made to Koi Sushi 2 as an uncollectible. The City of Minneapolis has developed a wide toolbox of small business financing programs, and I can give a brief summary of those programs. The 2% loan program has been in existence since 1986. It provides financing to Minneapolis businesses for equipment and building improvements, and we do it in cooperation with local lenders. Our loan amounts range from a maximum of $50,000 to $75,000, depending on where the business is located. The alternative financing program also provides us businesses financing assistance for building improvements and equipment purchases, but offers an alternative financing approach to the interest-based system. Energy efficiency loan program provides financial assistance to improve energy efficiency in Minneapolis businesses, and it was using stimulus grant funds through the Department of Energy. The initial capital for that program has been expended, but loan repayments are being recirculated. The Business Development Fund loan program offers up to $75,000 for equipment and capital improvements, and it offers business owners a prepayment credit if they're hiring Minneapolis residents who are earning a living wage. The Working Capital Guarantee Program provides small businesses help in securing financing through private lenders. The city's investment in it is a guarantee on a portion of that financing. The Homegrown Business Development Loan is a program that provides financing and technical assistance to Minneapolis-based businesses that are processing and manufacturing local food products. The Business Recovery Loan Program was developed with the state of Minnesota and MCCD after a tornado struck North Minneapolis, and it was to assist businesses that were affected by that natural disaster. The Business Health and Safety Loan Program is a new program that was just approved by the City Council in December of last year, and the launch date should be this spring. We haven't processed any loans under that program yet. In 2013, we did 49 loans under the various loan programs. The city's total loans were just over $2.4 million, and it was leveraged by over $14 million in private investment from local lenders. A couple of the highlights of those loans that were closed in 2013. The first one was a $60,000 2% loan to Dr. Tara Watson for build-out and equipment purchases for the Anytime Fitness Center at 2104 West Broadway, which is adjacent to Dr. Watson's chiropractic office. Park State Bank participated with the city on that project and did a loan for $240,000. The building now houses a 5,000 square foot athletic club. The city also provided a $20,000 alternative financing loan to Layla Mohammed, the owner of Cedar Riverside Child Care Center. The new daycare center is located at 404 Cedar Avenue South. That loan was done in participation with the African Development Center, and the funds were used for leasehold improvements. The center is serving up to 53 children, ages infant to school age. Following is a breakdown of the statistics on the different loan programs. You will notice that the default rates vary for the programs due to the longevity of the program itself and the types of businesses that it's serving. Lastly, we are requesting for authorization to write off a 2% loan, which was done in 2009 to a company called Koo-Ray LLC, which was doing business as Koi Sushi 2. CPED did a $75,000 2% loan in cooperation with Park Midway Bank, who also had a $75,000 investment. We were notified in October of 2011 that the restaurant had closed and Park Midway Bank had declared the loan a default. Mr. Willis Dry, who was the business owner, filed for bankruptcy in 2011. And after the collection efforts and liquidation of assets, the remaining balance on our portion of the loan was $53,331.51, and we are recommending that the remaining balance be written off as uncollectible.
For Ms. Moses, let me just start, and perhaps this is a question for Ms. Pulaski. I'm wondering about, I really like this report a lot, and I think it's really helpful, but it's hard for me to distill changes in what's happening with the economy. So, for example, the 2% loan program, which has, we've loaned out $35 million, but that's since 1986. So I'm wondering about maybe seeing a 5-year snapshot or a 2-year snapshot, just to get a sense of, did we have no defaults at the beginning and tons now, or are there less now and more in the past? I'm not asking you to generate any more work as much as for next year, because that's a significant, the overall default rate is really low, but I'm wondering if during the recession it was higher, or it must have been actually. I would love to get more information, just at a minimum, on that loan and the alternative financing loan program, since those are both over $1 million. I'm not so much needing to have that information on the energy efficiency loan program or those that are more recently operating. I'm wondering what your thoughts are about kind of dissecting it a little bit more that way.
Madam Chair, thanks, and committee members. I think that's a really good suggestion. We have seen changes over time, and actually another one that you'll notice, there's the working capital guarantee. And that was one that, that's a program, frankly, that we offer episodically. We really needed to hold that out during the recession, as we saw a number of businesses that were in danger of going under. That you can see by the default rate is a riskier kind of endeavor on the city. But there were a lot of businesses that took advantage of that during the recession, and really, the stories we heard on a weekly basis about businesses that were about to go under were really eye-opening, and that's why we brought that working capital guarantee program back in for a while. You'll see those go down now as we don't need, and that is an indication of the economy that we don't need to offer those as much anymore. You're also correct with some of our other programs. We do see ebb and flow in terms of their popularity, and I think we can certainly put together a different kind of snapshot that will show you sort of the changes over a period of time. So that's a good suggestion.
Because one thing that comes to mind for me is with regard to sector. I would guess restaurant loans do worse. I mean, even in the private sector, people don't want to invest in restaurants. That's why they often resort to crowdfunding. So I wonder, are restaurants more risky? What about, are the loans that are for $12,000 paid back more than the loans for $60,000? Is there a direct correlation between the amount of money we lend and the number of defaults in that category? So I'm just kind of, not that I think the default rate's high, so we have a problem to solve, as much as interest in where our risk lies, and perhaps pitching loans that are less expensive or in certain market sectors might allow us to bring the default rate down lower.
Madam Chair, I think those are all good things to look at. I think what you'll find is with the 49 loans we did last year, everyone is pretty unique. What I can say is, one of the great structural elements of this program, of the 2% program, is that we are working in combination with partner lending institutions. It's great because they're adding their underwriting expertise to this decision. It's also great because, for the most part, they are profit-driven, and if they were going to make the loan on their own, they would do so. So that means where our capital is being used is where it's really needed most. And those are the deals that we do want to come in that are sort of on the fence. The lender isn't necessarily willing to make the loan all on their own, but with the addition of the city's capital, they're willing to take a little bit more risk. And I think it's actually pretty remarkable that the default rate is under 3%, considering that that's the nature of these loans. But we can certainly provide more information, more detail in terms of the sort of the makeup of the kinds of loans and what we've seen.
Right, and not now, just next time when you do a report. Yeah, I just don't want to generate any more work than there already is. Councilmember Quincy.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for bringing this topic up. This is one of those good news stories I think we need to talk about all the time, and I'm sure my colleagues on the committee would agree. This is a tremendous investment that the city's willing to make, and it invests in our small businesses. And it does so in such a collaborative way with the businesses themselves, with the neighborhood associations who are supporting those businesses, and with, as you said, Ms. Pulaski, the financial lending institutions that we work with in partnership. So it's a terrific win for the city. I'd like to always highlight the number of jobs that were created and, more importantly, the ones that were retained, especially through this tough economic time that we have come through. That positions the city and our businesses and our residents to be in a position to be at a point of success and growth at the end of tough times where other cities are not able to make that kind of commitment. So thank you for your work, Ms. Moses, for bringing this report, and keep spreading the word and sharing the news. Thank you very much.
Further comments or questions for Ms. Moses or Ms. Pulaski? Seeing none, I'll move approval of the staff recommendation, which is to receive and file the 2013 loan portfolio report and authorize staff to write off a 2% loan made to Koi Sushi 2. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is approved. We'll then move on to item number 16, which didn't need to be on discussion, so we'll have a very brief report on our Minneapolis street outreach funding, because this was approved in the budget already, so.
It's all right. It's nice to be here. Madam Chair and committee members, I'm Mikkel Beckman. I am the director of your office to end homelessness, and I am here to present the staff recommendations on continuing to support street outreach efforts to end street homelessness in downtown and the rest of Minneapolis. And the creation of a street outreach team was an early low-hanging fruit in our 10-year plan to end homelessness. We are now done with 7 years of our Heading Home Hennepin plan, and the city of Minneapolis took an early lead in really in creating the street outreach team. It's leveraged additional state and private funding. We now have, I believe, 8 outreach members on the streets of Minneapolis, 7 days a week, working in partnership with the DID, the police department, and others to reduce and eventually eliminate street homelessness. And I just would add at the end that when we started the street outreach team, we were counting upwards of between 400 and 500 people living outside, not accessing shelter. These days, the numbers are between 150 and 215 people. So we have seen great strides and great reductions, and we'd like to continue to do so. And we think St. Stephen's has been a strong partner. And so the recommendation is to continue that funding for another year.
Councilmember Quincy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I certainly agree with you, Mr. Beckman, and thank you for being here. It's a tremendous operation, one that was innovative at the start, has had remarkable success, especially with our Downtown 100 and working in partnership with the DID. And we continue to do this work in partnership with Downtown Council as they advance their goals of ending street homelessness. So thank you for that, and I'd like to move approval of this item. Thank you.
Approval of item number 16 has been moved. I'll just also say, God, whenever I see you, Mikkel, here, it makes my heart sing to have someone of your quality doing this work on behalf of the city because of your passion, your history, your knowledge of this issue. You are the kind of person we need representing us to help solve this very complicated problem. And so I'm just really, really happy you're here on our team.
Well, and I'm happy to be a part of the team too. It's been a nice change for me, and so it's nice to be anywhere, but it's really nice to be here.
Thank you. On the motion to approve, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is approved. Our last item then is going to be a subject matter referral to staff. Mr. Wilson, I will call on you to give a briefing about where we're at on this, and then to let us know if any of our jurisdictional partners were here today and wanted to say something.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to briefly discuss transportation network companies. We have a regional taxi cab working group that has been working for about 6 months on the topic of transportation network companies. Some examples of transportation network companies that are actually operating in the Twin Cities metro area now are Lyft with the pink mustache and UberX. I'm just seeing if the screen's up. Okay. And are we on the first shot, the first screen? There we go. Okay, thank you. So this is the first slide, and I will be brief. Our Metro Taxi Cab Advisory Group consists of regulatory staff like myself from the City of Minneapolis, the Minneapolis Airport Commission, and the City of St. Paul. Joining me today from the Minneapolis Airport Commission is Arlie Johnson, Assistant Director of Operations at the airport. You want to raise your hand, Arlie? Thank you. And we've been discussing this issue for 6 months. Also, at the conclusion of today's CD committee meeting, we are meeting with officials from Lyft and Uber to get all three of our jurisdictions together to talk about this further. So if you look at the first slide, there's a picture of a vehicle. Transportation network companies are those vehicles that give people rides for a fee. The difference between this and a taxi cab is these vehicles are owned by, they're private vehicles owned by private citizens, not a cab company, not affiliated with a cab company. So you see in that picture, this one is affiliated with the UberX Corporation. And you can go to the next slide. So these are for-profit businesses that provide prearranged transportation services using an online app. So a smartphone, you can get hooked up as a passenger with a driver who will take you to where you want to go. Common examples are Lyft and UberX. Riders must have an active account with the transportation network company, so they sign up through an application. They give them their credit card information, and they can summons a ride with the cell phone, and at the conclusion of the trip, the cost of that trip is deducted from their credit card. So there's no card swiping in the cab. There's no cash transactions between passenger and rider. This technology is catching on a little bit with our existing fleet in that 40% of our current licensed taxi cab fleet have a cell phone application with a credit card swipe model in their car. Next slide. Just to use Lyft as an example, they have some interesting requirements. They have a program that they will do annual driver's record checks, driver background checks. They have required vehicles be model year 2000 or newer. They have a 19-point vehicle safety inspection, require valid personal auto insurance, and they have a suggested donation charge to riders' accounts unless the rider suggests a zero or different donation amount. Basically, they do charge a fee as if anyone else would. The corporation, Lyft, keeps 20% of the revenue, and the driver gets the 80%. Lyft does provide drivers with excess liability insurance up to $1 million per occurrence. We have not seen this yet, or this has not been analyzed by any of our insurance officials, city attorney, or things like that. Lyft currently operates in many cities. There's no doubt this slide is out of date now, but they currently operate in at least San Francisco, LA, Seattle, Chicago, Boston, San Diego, Washington, St. Paul, Indianapolis, and now Minneapolis. There's a driver and passenger evaluation process with the transportation network company so the driver and passenger can evaluate each other. A driver with a less than 4 stars is not again matched with that same passenger. And drivers with an average rate of less than 4.5 stars are removed from the Lyft drivers pool. Local interaction to date, we have met once several months ago with the Lyft Corporation. We have not met with the Uber Corporation. We asked for some information about their insurance coverage, have not received any information back from them. UberX and Lyft have started in both St. Paul and Minneapolis. Thus far, UberX has been cited for operating without taxi cab licenses in our city. Lyft has not, as they launched real recently, and they've been offering free rides up until just a couple days ago. Other cities are experiencing this phenomena with the transportation network companies are launching all over the country, and all over the country the regulators and city councils are trying to figure out what to do with them. Some cities have adopted special rules and regulations. Other cities are establishing panels and committees to deal with them. And some jurisdictions are simply requiring taxi cab style requirements. The issues and concerns we have are still, number one is insurance coverage. There are insurance issues across the country with both Uber and Lyft as they're still refusing to provide jurisdictions with their insurance coverage. Background checks, vehicle inspection, details of those need to be provided. So we're looking at accountability of enforcement. There's possibility for discrimination if Lyft drivers and UberX drivers won't service a particular neighborhood where now our ordinance requires that drivers service all orderly customers. There's also a surge pricing issue with both UberX and Lyft, in that they time to time will increase their prices if there are not very many drivers out. And we have had, in the short time that these companies have been here, we have had complaints about this surge pricing matter. So we actually made this presentation, our regional advisory group, to a couple state legislators about 2 weeks ago, Senator Scott Dibble and Representative Frank Hornstein, to try and get some guidance. I should have also said that Elizabeth Glidden from our jurisdiction is on this panel, as well as Kathy Lantry from the City of St. Paul and Dan Bovin from the Airports Commission. So we asked these policymakers, if we were to come down, what kind of regulation should we be looking at as a task force? And we showed them this page. All of the policymakers kind of came in line with what's between item number 2, which is allow self-regulated transportation network companies with rules and a regulatory enforcement component, or 3, allow transportation network companies with comparable regulation to taxi cabs. In that regard, the City of Seattle City Council voted last night on a unanimous vote to adopt an ordinance that regulates transportation network companies right about where we drew our line, where they are licensing them, requiring the drivers to be licensed. They're requiring commercial insurance, but they aren't going as far as making them have meters, having them paint their car up like a taxi cab and things like that. So that concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, so this is a referral to staff. Unless someone from the City of St. Paul or the Metropolitan Airports Commission would like to say something, we're not taking any testimony. It's not a public hearing. This is to give our intent that we are moving forward with putting something together. We're not going to, there's been a lot of time that's passed since there's been a request for us to address this, and we feel that now is the time to get it addressed so that we can have some sort of orderly process in place. So questions for Mr. Wilson. Councilmember Cano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So interestingly enough, we just got back from the National League of Cities conference where a few of us had the opportunity to use the Uber cars and the service, and I was really impressed with the efficiency of it. And it seems to me like in a marketplace like Washington, D.C., that works very well. I tried to go with a regular taxi company and I would just get called back saying, "We are still looking for your taxi. We are still looking for your taxi." So finally had to revert to the other option. I haven't had that experience in Minneapolis. I feel like when I call taxis, they come pretty quickly and they come when I need them. So I'm just, from a user end, I can understand how this could be a really good model and project. From a policymaker stance, I wonder what kind of data we have to substantiate in terms of, is there a high demand for this kind of service here in Minneapolis? What kinds of implications do we see this having on the local taxi drivers that we have now? I mean, certainly I would be concerned about other companies maybe being put out of business, or I don't know if that's the kind of thing that we would just leave up to the free market to figure itself out if we just put this out there. So I'm just trying to figure out from your perspective, what are some of the effects of this on the local jobs creation scene if we bring in sort of this opportunity to Minneapolis residents?
You're asking me the question?
No, I was looking at the
Mr.
report.
Wilson.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councilmember Kano. We don't have a lot of data yet on the amount of passenger traffic that UberX and Lyft are having in our town. But we do have a lot of information about what's happening in other jurisdictions. And so by opening this market to transportation network companies, we could double the fleet size of our small vehicle passenger service network in a short amount of time. In other jurisdictions, there are claims that they are stripping some of the prime taxi cab rides out of that market, thereby making some of the other cabs not be profitable anymore. And so things that I would like to look at is to make sure that we have a reliable taxi cab service all the time. So when you need a 4 a.m. taxi cab to get to the airport for an early flight, they're going to be there. Will the TNCs be there? I'm not sure, but right now our taxi cabs are, because they're out 24/7. They provide small vehicle passenger service for hire for all persons, including those with disabilities that might need a wheelchair van. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but we'll stop there.
Yeah, I'd be interested in looking at more of those effects and impacts. I just wanted to walk into this with, open eyes about what could be the potential impacts of opening up this opportunity. Again, as a resident and as a user, it was a very great experience in DC. I'm not sure that we're up to that level yet of demand for transportation, but I'm just concerned about the jobs issue and would love to talk to you more about that.
Councilmember Frye.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We as a city have expressed the goal of moving away from the automobile-centric mentality, and while this is not the only option, I think this is one option in the whole collage of transportation possibilities that I think is applicable here. Are we saying that Lyft and UberX are going to get a free pass? No, I think equity is important, but in ensuring equity, I think fair competition is also a big part of that. And I think this is time for us to take the big step, and I really appreciate the work that Mr. Wilson is doing to ensure that we do not only have fairness, but we also are protected in terms of the insurance side as well.
Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to refer the subject matter of the ordinance to staff. I will note that we're hoping that this is something that's taken up right away, that it's not one of a long list of 20 things we've asked you to do. I think it's probably time for us to address it. And I will say this, from my point of view, this is a really big opportunity for our city to do this right. So we have a number of cities who have already waded into this area, and in some places it's worked for one side and it hasn't worked for the other. So we have a lot of experience of best practices around the country, and it would make sense that we use this as an opportunity to try to balance both sides as best we can and try not to pick winners and losers. I realize in some cases there are going to be some offshoots of winners and offshoots of losers. I almost will regret after I say this that I was a big supporter of the expansion of the food truck industry, much to the disappointment and disgust of the restaurant industry. But the food truck industry gave young people and entrepreneurs an opportunity to start a business without all of the startup costs that were required. And it really helped us create more equity in our city, and many of those food trucks then became bricks and mortar restaurants. This is not unlike that. This is the wave of the future. It's not like we're the first city to deal with it. We are a city kind of in the middle, maybe with a different demographic in terms of reliance on cars, but this is a car model. So I'm hoping that we can utilize the expertise of council members Glidden and Fry, who are very interested in working on this and creating a great opportunity in our city to try to do this in as equitable a manner as we can while understanding we're going to do it. So it's just a question of what it's going to look like. It's not a question of if we're going to allow it, because we are. And hopefully this will be the midway point through a conversation. I hesitate to say start, because I feel like the conversation has started and hasn't gone very far. And unless we express out loud that we want to see this happening soon, the powers that be just, it's inertia. Other things come up and we have things to deal with, and we don't see it happening as quickly as we would like. So if there's a disagreement with my comment, that I'm hoping as chair of this committee to just try to move this along. I'm not taking a leadership position in how it looks as much as urging us all to come together and have it look like something, and have it look like something relatively soon. So those are my thoughts for what they're worth, and I'm very grateful, Mr. Wilson, that you have agreed or maybe been volunteered. You have a lot of expertise in our city with regulatory services in some of the most difficult areas to regulate, and if there was someone who could handle it, I know you are the person. So I am going to move to refer this subject matter to staff and ask for an update in 2 cycles as to where we are at. So that would give us about 4 weeks. If we're nowhere, let's hear nowhere, so we need to push it along, and if we have something to report, then we'll have something to report. On that motion, seeing no objection, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is approved. Seeing no further business before us, we stand adjourned.